Is there a carpenter? What's going on?
That's Henry banging on the door.
Oh, nice.
Carrie's on it. Oh, either that or Maisie. All right. We are live.
Are we live? Oh, there we go. We are live. All right,
We
here
are
we go.
live.
Testing, testing. Today on Quality Time with Family Ties, we learn take the sorority. No, that's terrible. I thought I was going to fit in sororities. But it doesn't fit the meter in the
You were
slightest.
These sororities.
See, you did it. You did it, Scott. Here, you do it.
What was your take these sororities, and then what was the follow-up?
That was it. It's just in it's in the vein of Mr. Mister.
Okay. All right. All right. In 3, 2, 1. Today on Quality Time with Family Ties, we learn take these sororities. And in 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody! Welcome to Quality Time with Family Ties. I am one of your hosts, Scott Jones, reunited with Paul and Corey. Hey guys, I've missed you.
Hey, how you doing, Scott?
I'm good.
What college is Henry going to?
Well, he's graduated.
It's been a while. That's what I thought. So
yeah. And time has been kind to you, Corey.
I know, it's the picture of Dorian Gray. 20 years have gone by and I'm still young.
I know, you look younger now than you did before.
Yeah.
So it's the show. The show has reversed aged me. It's Benjamin Buttoned me.
Corey will be an angsty teenager by the time we're done with this.
I'm still curious as to why we opened going for the Mr. joke when we could have gone for the sister joke. We could have gone for a Tia and Tamara Mowry joke.
Well, at best, we are middle-aged men, so our frame of reference skews way further toward the 80s than it does to the late 90s and aughts.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
I know.
If we were actually trying to reach an audience, we would have done Sister.
But we have steadfastly refused to reach an audience.
We will not reach. If you want to find us, it is a journey, okay? You earn your audience status with this show.
Exactly. If you're listening to this, we're proud of you for finding us.
We really are. And slightly worried about you.
Yes. I can't believe that their naming of the shows this season has really been like something that's happening pop culturally in the world of 1986-87. Every title has been that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one is season 6, episode 10. Mr. Sister, which is obviously capitalizing on the Michael Keaton craze, Mr. Mom.
Right. And you know what? I'm going to say it. That Michael Keaton craze has not stopped. I love watching Michael Keaton.
He's very funny. He's very talented. He's
great.
He went to my high school. He's the biggest star to come out of Montour High School.
Nice.
And
then was in the first film that I was in Studs Lonigan with me.
Was he really?
Michael Keaton was the first thing he ever did.
I didn't know that.
Michael was one of the older versions, and I was one of the younger versions, but for the first 6 weeks, the older versions of the characters and the younger versions of the characters, we all hung out together, which is how I know my older version, Sam Weissman, director of Family Ties, and Michael was the older version for the guy who was my character's enemy in the show. So I had to hang out with Michael as well, because all younger versions and older versions, all the characters who we lived with each other. So anyway, Michael was a very nice guy and was a stand-up comic at the time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was sort of weird. I remember going and seeing him at the Comedy Store one night and was like, oh, I was hanging out with my friend Michael Keaton. And then, years later, he became fucking Batman.
At the time, was he going by Michael Keaton, or was it Michael Douglas then? Or
no, it was Michael Keaton when I met him.
Oh wow, he changed early on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's awesome. This episode.
I was gonna go ahead. Give me your thoughts.
It we've been down this road before. Like, I didn't hate this episode, and I think it's because it's a Nick episode. It was fun. It was fine. But I was like, you are really repeating a ton of stuff in this one episode.
This show is tired. This is a tired machine right now. They're churning out. They're not just. They're the delivery of each episode is like geriatric constipation. It's been around for such a long time, and squeezing that turd out every 7 days, it's starting to kill them.
Yeah, I just started watching the new season of Curb Your Enthusiasm and stopped that right quick because it sucks.
Really?
It's the same thing. It's just tired.
Mm-hmm.
It's old and tired, and Curb did not need to come back. And this season 6 right now is in the same boat where it's the same thing, but there's no energy behind it.
I'm going to cut them the littlest bit of slack by just saying NBC put ridiculous pressure on those writers because of that must-see TV stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Expanding episodes, adding to series orders, going from 22 episodes to 32 episodes some seasons. And I know they added clip shows and they had half shows and they did everything that they could do. They were still coming up with plots, and that's where you start to run out of ideas. And that's why we're seeing, Scott, I don't think you were here the last 2 weeks, both of those plots in a row. Paul and I both mentioned we could name the show and the season that they did that plot. They're doing, they're rehashing Tracy Pollan plots for Courtney Cox, and they're rehashing other plots from other seasons, and they're just sort of plugging other names into it, and it's dreadful. It's just dreadful to continue to watch this.
Yeah. You have a great character in Nick, so much so that they tried for a spinoff, and now so they're reverting back to old Nick in this show. And again, it has to revolve around Nick trying to get a job, Nick trying to fit in, Nick not thinking much of himself. Like, it's old, and Nick could be such a much more interesting, compelling character.
And yet I agree with you that my interest in this episode was solely about Nick.
Right. Because Scott Ballantyne is awesome. Like, he really has amazing comedic timing.
And that's not to say that I didn't enjoy Justine Bateman, because she pretty much can do no wrong. They just don't write her particularly well.
Right.
Yeah, in this episode, Justine Bateman's character is just the killjoy. There's no logic behind why she's upset. It's just that she is upset, and it's causing it's just for the sake of plotting. It's not that she wants something. It's not that she has a certain desire from Nick that he's not fulfilling, or that she is upset because Nick is doing one thing or another. It's just sort of a blanket. She's being the antagonist in this episode.
It's conflict for the sake of conflict, because we need conflict. So how do we have conflict here? Because there are many people having a relationship who work together, and maybe something could come up from that work situation, but instead they sort of, right from the get-go, Nick jumps right on in, and of course they gave him the silliest job in the whole world, janitor for a sorority.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into it, guys. If you're playing along at home, we are on season 6, episode 10, Mr. Sister. And we start off in the kitchen, and Andy and Elise are baking cookies.
Now, tell me, gents, the second you saw Andy sitting there in an apron, baking cookies with a rolling pin in his hand, and Alex nowhere in sight, did it occur to either of you, after 6 seasons and 10 episodes, did it occur to either of you that we were just about to get a blast of Alex's patented misogyny?
Yeah. It was like a gust of cold wind when you open the door on I don't know. I'm really grasping at straws.
And then he came in and he slapped us upside the head with his misogyny, which I'm just sick of already. I'm sick of it. I can't handle it anymore. Stop it. We're in 1987 and your parents are right there. Just stop it, Alex.
Well, Steven kind of joins in on it too a little bit.
Yes, he does.
Right. And, we've talked multiple times about Alex's athletic ability. And this time, instead of football, it's basketball, which is a sport. Guys, we knew early on in our lives, we would never, ever, ever play basketball.
And gentlemen, we can speak honestly about this.
Absolutely.
And we could bring Michael J. Fox into this very conversation.
Yes.
Why is it that basketball wasn't ever going to be good for us? We're short.
Exactly.
Well, you say that, but Scott Howard from Teen Wolf, played by Michael J. Fox,
I know.
fucking killed it in basketball.
He had to be a wolf, though, Paul.
Yeah.
Like at Scott, he wasn't that great, but somehow made the team.
Again, it's insane that Alex P. Keaton is someone who enjoys sports.
Do you think Michael J. Fox, like with both Teen Wolf and the Family Ties producers, are like, look, I want to play basketball. Give me this.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, he actually made it an argument.
Yeah, I kind of do. I think that he goes to them and says, hey, I love basketball. Put it in. Come on, just give it to me.
Can I play basketball?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, so Alex is upset that Andy's in an apron baking cookies, and they want him to play learn basketball, which it will teach him competition and stuff like that, and all that bullshit. And then Mallory comes in and mentions that Nick had gone for a job interview at Grant College to be for a job that she thought he'd be perfect for, the dean of admissions.
So Mallory starts this episode brain dead.
Yes.
Yes. Extremely stupid.
That was one of those moments where I just went, now the whole family is playing it like we're playing it, but I don't understand. Mallory is usually a character that's grounded in reality.
Mm-hmm.
Why make that stupid joke? Why couldn't they have found some other joke to plug in there?
Yeah, at first I thought that was going to be like an ironic thing where they were like, oh, she's like, oh, he went in for the dean of admissions. Oh, no, I'm kidding. He went in for this other job. But no, they actually had him go to interview for the dean of admissions at a college.
Right.
That would be a high school dropout interviewing for the job of dean of admissions at a university or college.
Why would Nick want that job?
Right. Why would he even go? Like, he's smart enough to know I am not qualified for this in any way.
No.
And that's what he comes back and essentially says.
I want to see that conversation where she and Nick are looking at the classifieds in the Cleveland News.
Yeah, and she goes, hey, Nick, look at this one, dean of admissions for Grant College. And he goes, hey, that's a great idea. I've always wanted to be called Dean. No, you'd still be called Nick. Yeah, I thought Dean would be like a really cool name, like Dean. Okay? The worst fucking thing I've ever seen in my life.
Corey, that scene was excellent.
Yeah, that sounded like Family Ties writing to me.
Yeah,
Season 6.
Yeah, season 6, Family Ties.
Very lazy.
But guys, the reality gets even more messed up because, so Nick comes in, says, of course, he didn't get it, that any dean position wasn't good for him. The family kind of makes fun of him. And then he says, oh, but they did give me this job description for something that I might fit, which is for a janitor at a sorority. And Mallory then says, oh, yeah, I wrote that ad. So she knew about this job.
That's correct. And yet didn't think that, well, maybe she didn't think Nick would be interested in being a janitor.
She seems to be, like, she's baffled. Like, once she has the idea of Nick being a janitor at the sorority, she's very excited by that idea. Like, this would be great for you. And yet she didn't put that together when she was writing the ad?
What are these writers even doing? Do they even give a shit?
No.
No.
How much money would you have to be paid to give a shit about your job a year?
As a writer, $100,000. That'll get me to give
I
a
think,
shit.
yeah, I think that would
Yeah,
be a good
I
amount
would give a
for
shit.
a
100
TV
grand.
writer. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Even 75. I would.
Even, I'd do it
if I
for
were being-
75, sure. That's good.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all it is one little sentence that Mallory says that completely fucks up the whole logic of what's just happened. And no one caught that. Yeah.
Now, you know what? All of these jokes and these sort of plot holes and stuff like that feel like a first draft problem. Where you haven't even done an outline of what happens in the episode. You just write from idea to idea and from joke to joke. And then from there, you're like, oh shit, this contradicts what I said 4 pages ago. And then don't fix it.
Right. Right.
Now, did you guys notice who directed this episode?
Something Bateman, yeah?
Like
Their
Daddy.
dad?
Like Daddy.
Dad directed this episode.
Jason and
Interesting.
Justine's daddy, Kent Bateman, acting coach.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Kent Bateman's been an acting coach in LA for years and was their acting coach. And he directed this episode. First time I've seen his name on it. So it was a Mallory episode too. So I thought that was sort of interesting. I mean, if you're going to talk about it was really a Nick episode, but if you're going to look at the regulars, it's really his daughter's episode. So
interesting. I wonder why
I don't
it's so late in the series that he eventually got around to directing.
I'm wondering. I don't think he was a director before. That's why.
Okay.
I think this was them giving him a shot.
Letting him have a little directing credit to get in on
Right.
TV.
As far as the directing, did either of you, did anything stick out as being great or not or whatever?
No.
It was
This is
solid.
fine.
It was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we cut to the sorority house.
That's right.
This scene again, talking plot holes. All right, so we cut to the sorority house. They're interviewing. The sorority sisters are interviewing for the janitor position, and it's Nick and this other guy. Did any of you guys make a note of what his name was?
In a show, Larry.
Yeah, but Larry, and we've seen this guy,
Bobby Costanzo, again for the third or fourth time.
Yep, they love him.
He must be blowing Gary David Goldberg. That's my guess. Or Gary David Goldberg is receiving, in the light of current allegations, I would suggest that Gary David Goldberg is masturbating for him. That's my only guess.
Yeah, he's.
I know this is off topic, gentlemen. Totally off topic.
Yeah, jump
I
in.
just want to throw this out there to both of you.
Yeah.
Ever have the urge
Sure.
to masturbate in front of people who you're not having a relationship with?
No.
I don't understand. No,
No.
never.
I think it was on SNL or was it somewhere else that said, if you're masturbating and the other person doesn't have their clothes off or part of their clothes off, then there's something wrong.
You're wrong.
Right.
Yeah,
This
You're
is
wrong.
this is on SNL last night?
Tiffany had it. Yeah, Tiffany Haddish did it in her
that's
monologue.
what
It was really
Yeah.
good. It was really, really.
It was really good. If you're masturbating and the other person doesn't have their clothes off, you're wrong.
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb, I would say.
You've guessed wrong. You've guessed wrong that's what that person wants. Because generally speaking, human nature, both of you would eventually take some parts of clothes off.
Wow.
Interested and into it. So there we go. I just never, a stand-up comic friend of mine who knows Louis quite well and knows a bunch of these women who were involved in this whole story. We were working together the other day and he looked at me and he goes, ever jerk off in front of a stranger? And it was like, that would be no, never have, never even thought about it. Don't really have the urge to do that. Feel like I'd be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like something I'm really comfortable doing alone.
Yeah. But also the precursor to that is asking if you can. And it's like, what? Who? What?
Well, legally, he's trying to clear himself. It was his lawyer suggested.
It said it was okay. Right.
Yeah. It's sort of consensual. They didn't say no. Well, how could they if you're standing in front of the door, which is how that works.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the other thing.
Where are you going to go? Yeah.
They may have said nothing and not left, but then you're standing in front of the only door. Sorry, that's a problem.
Right. And you've created a situation that is discomforting, and you might shut down and not know what do you do.
Mm-hmm. I read a terrific article this morning about about masturbation and shame, and the connection, the psychological connection between, because of when we start to masturbate, how old we are, what we've been told about it from society, so that even as one gets older and one realizes that it's not really shameful, there's still a certain element of shame involved with masturbation. Now, if you add to that the shame of doing it in front of someone non-consensually, then it really sort of magnifies the amount of shame. Mm-hmm. So most of us try and shed the shame after the masturbation, but this type of person sort of is into the shame, wants to be shamed.
Ah.
Oh, wow.
Which is really sort of
act.
Exactly. There's sort of kind of a real kind of twist there, which of course us regular masturbators don't understand.
I love the term regular masturbators.
That's like an Uber baiter. That's sort of
Uber X or Uber Pool.
Yeah.
So anyway, Bobby Costanza is getting interviewed for
and he's been on the show a lot too.
Yeah.
So
and always looking for a job. Usually for a job interview, that's when you bring in Bobby Costanza.
Although he has served at Guido's.
He has served at Guido's. Yes.
And he almost had a job with the
nanny.
Clan as a nanny.
Yep.
Until the lovely Gina Davis came along.
It's actually kind of funny in what we were talking about earlier about the fact that that they're reusing the same plot points. Bobby Costanzo interviewing for a job and not getting it.
Yes,
it's a different job, same scene every time.
Right.
Yeah.
Except in this one, he's like extremely beyond qualified. He's like the 1983 custodian of the year. He's worked at the White House. He was a janitor at the White House. Like he revolutionized with a certain mop he invented.
And he still can't get the job.
Right. And the girls say nothing to him. Like it's all just Steve Bateman and him. They have no questions for him. So he leaves. Nick comes in, adamantly admits that he has no experience, feels intimidated being on a college campus, and the girls find him charming.
That's the whole scene, is all of them just sort of beaming at Nick.
Yeah.
But he is. I'm glad that this episode didn't go in the direction that he's going to cheat on Mallory or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that all of the women in the sorority and him just found common ground on things that they like together, and that's why they want to hire him, and that's why he has so much fun hanging out with them. That it's just like this nice thing of like, oh, he has a great time hanging out. He enjoys being part of a group, and that's it. It's not like this, like, oh, Mallory's jealous of this girl or whatever.
Right. And that would be really bad because Nick is so likable. To have him go down that path would really be bad for the character. Like, I don't think there'd be a lot coming back from that.
Right.
But it is funny. The thing that wins them over is they mentioned that they're having a hard time coming up with ideas for like the annual snowball or something like that. And Nick, being an artist, his creative idea is taking the wadded up paper in the trash can and using that as snowballs.
Brilliant.
Like, that's it.
Yep.
It's the dumbest insight ever.
It really is. And they are blown away by it. So Nick is hired. He's part of the sorority now. And we cut back to the
Wait a second, guys. I just thought of something.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the name of the sorority?
Gamma Delta Gamma?
Yeah.
What are those initials?
Gary David Goldberg.
Oh shit!
Holy shit!
Oh my God, Paul!
I just thought of that.
That was no coincidence, boys.
Brilliant.
That's hilarious. So that they can have GDC written on things.
Oh, shit.
shit.
Some writer really wanted to kiss David Gary Goldberg's ass.
Goldberg's ass.
Oh, that's brilliant, Paul.
There you go.
Okay, so we're playing basketball in the kitchen now. They are
This B plot.
It's. I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, I mean, we started off with the idea we need to teach Andy to be macho and stuff, and then it just becomes about them wanting to have time to play basketball in the house, and Elise not liking it.
Yeah, that B plot seemed to morph as the show went on. It seemed to be one thing at one time, and then it very definitely became the Elise not wanting them to play basketball in the house plot.
Right.
Which was really, I'm sorry, there wasn't a moment of this plot that worked for me.
No, nothing worked.
In fact, there's the astounding moment with Elise later on in the second act. That is one of she's now had 2 moments in the last 2 weeks that I hate her guts. I hate her. God, she pissed me off last week with the monologue, and this week with that basketball shtick in the second act. Man, wow! I can't believe she let them talk her into that. That was a no-win situation.
Her fake dribbling of the ball is the most awkward thing I've ever
watched. It's horrible. It's
so bad.
She has never seen basketball being played.
Never.
You know what it reminded me of? We're getting ahead of it because it'll be in the second act, but it reminded me of when an old person is dealing with a cell phone and have no idea how, like, Facebook works.
Right.
But this is basketball. You know, it's like 30 years ago, and this woman doesn't know how basketball works. Like,
nope.
But it's the same dynamic of, like, you know, it's not like Facebook hasn't been around for a little while, and it's not like basketball isn't 100 years old, and it's just this weird, like, oh, I don't know how this is, and it's really discomforting to watch.
It really is. And there's no reason for. Why does she not want them to play it in the house?
She never gives us a reason for it.
Never.
Because women don't like when guys have fun. Like when Nick's having fun, and Steven and Alex are having fun.
Women hate fun.
Yeah. Right. They hate fun. They hate it when you masturbate into something in front of them. You know, they just hate it when guys are trying to have fun.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And then Jennifer's kind of in this scene a little bit. Like, she's just there, not raising Andy or two here. Yeah. Let's get back to Nick. All right. So, Mallory comes down and she seems a little bit upset because Nick's been spending a lot of time at the sorority, hanging out with the sorority sisters, getting involved in all their activities and stuff, and there hasn't been a lot of time for both of them. And so, but tonight they're going to pop some popcorn and watch cartoons.
That's weird.
They're in college. That's weird.
I mean, especially people watch cartoons.
Yeah.
But I don't I think that they're just trying to make it seem like they're both stupid. Is that what we're supposed to glean from that?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Because in 1987, there really wasn't like more mature adult cartoons. You know, you didn't have like your Simpsons and stuff like that on TV, really. So cartoons back then meant like you're watching the Flintstones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's weird, and it's to make him sound stupid. But Nick comes over with the sorority sisters, and they are all going to go off to watch the football game instead. There's been a change of plans. And he's dressed in like a sorority sweater. Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing good to say about this. This whole dynamic is that, like, because all this stuff that makes him the writers have chosen for him to be part of the sorority is talking about getting spots out of clothing and
Mhm.
talking like just the most like 1950s bullshit um of like what women are supposed to do, and it's fucking embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, and it's also we've seen this kind of setup before where the writers think it's funny for Nick to drastically change from being Nick, like when he's trying the episode where he was trying to impress Steven and be like all proper and dressed up and speak in a like almost that robotic way, and now he's all about the sorority life,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it's just not funny.
The show is lazy,
Like
and the people that make it are lazy.
Paul says this as he's on his most comfortable pillow,
That's correct.
laying back, doing this over a phone.
And I didn't write down any notes about this episode, so that's like I wanted to get into character.
Did you not write
for
any
it.
notes at all?
No, I didn't.
I've considered that, and I'm so glad I did. If you're not, it's like too many of us don't have notes. This could be us.
Well, with as much as they're repeating, I think we don't need to.
I could just pull out my notes from season 4, episode 13.
I can predict the future of what's going to happen on this. All right. Is that the and so they go off and Mallory's disheartened, and is that commercial break, guys?
That is the act break, although there really wasn't an act break in this episode.
Not really,
because it just sort of faded into the next scene. But this is the act break.
Yeah. So with that, we'll be right back. And we are back. So I have to say that the fact that Nick shirked his duty, or not duty, but just like it was like, oh, we were gonna have a date night and you changed the plans. It's not cool that he did that.
No.
But at the same time, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of this episode. It really has no bearing on Mallory's problem with him in the slightest.
No, and they don't really do anything else. Well, it kind of in this is the next thing they up the stakes in a weird way where Mallory's getting ready for the dance. Andy wants to give her a truck to take with her to the dance.
What? What is happening?
What is happening? This makes no sense. Corey, can we check your Brian Ballenstein meter and see how you feel about this scene?
Just fine.
Oh, okay. He was fine.
I have no
It
problems
was
with
the dialogue
him.
I had issues with.
Oh yeah, I don't have any problems with him. He's doing just fine. I still continue to be amazed that this is the child I ranted at every week, and this season he's just fine.
Nice.
You know what? He's in the moment. He was even in the moment, and I think it's this scene. Alex puts the basketball down on the cookie dough by mistake, and he takes the cookie dough and he moves it away from the basketball.
Oh.
As if we were going to eat it in the future. They're not going to eat that cookie dough. It may not even be cookie dough. But he had the wherewithal to go, a basketball doesn't belong in my cookie dough. Now, that kid was thinking. He was in the moment.
Mm-hmm. I think that's why you're looking so good this season, Corey.
Because I'm not built with rage toward Brian Bonsall. I've lost my anger. Yeah. Although I will tell you, I will hook into a completely different anger at the end of this episode. I've got it written down, so I'll move to that.
Okay.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So Mallory comes down. Nick comes over. He's all dressed up again in like the sorority sweater. And then this felt like so not Nick, is that he at one point starts to lecture Mallory about the rules of the sorority and how she has been taking it for granted.
Again, these are the sorts of things that are just offensive as all get out. Is the rules that he brings up are like they're not allowed to have men enter the premises of the sorority, and it's like this is what women can dress and this is how they should cross their legs, and it's just like it's so fucking gross. All of it, like this is what the culture of women is supposed to be in the minds of the writers of Family Ties. This is what a woman is about. What they wear, how they get stuff out of clothing, how they should cross their legs, how they should keep men at arm's length so that way they don't get pregnant. And it's just like, you know what? With everything going on and it's just a real fucking sore spot.
Mm.
And the fact that like this is just normal culture in the 80s is fucking repulsive.
I think you can. It could be argued too with Greek life today. A lot of those rules are still applying to sororities,
I'm sure. I never belonged to a fraternity.
which is even more disgusting.
I never.
Yeah.
We didn't have sororities at my college or whatever, but like,
Mm.
I'm sure that that's probably the case.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a disgusting culture. Yeah.
And so he's like, he's got this book full of rules that he's like throwing at Mallory of like why she's not being a good sorority sister.
Right.
And if you
Which
want,
we have.
go ahead.
I was just saying we have said how woke Nick is.
Right. But it's just a matter of like that I don't know, because this is what we were talking about early on in this episode, is saying we don't know what Mallory's problem is with Nick. In this situation, it kind of makes sense. Like he's becoming very doctrinaire, or he's like, here's what you're supposed to do, Mallory. You're not being a sorority sister, right? And I am, even though I work for them. I'm the janitor. Like we lose that thread.
Right.
But now he's being a jerk by being this rules hound or whatever. But
Mhm.
then at the same time, her problem is that he's having more fun with the other women than he is with her, and he broke the date. And so it's just like it gets very cloudy what we're supposed to follow here.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's all messy. This whole episode, this is where it gets really messy, because then we cut to the snowball,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a janitor and yet kind of part of the sorority, and he sings the song, which was disturbing enough too, and then they vote for the Snow Queen.
And as if we couldn't see this coming a mile away,
Right.
Nick is elected Snow Queen of the sorority.
Which makes the joke doesn't make any sense.
They simply did it to provide conflict for Mallory,
Right.
so that we can have the makeup scene in the kitchen with the bang on the back door.
Yes.
Right.
And it's funny whenever men do things that are female in
Female, right.
scope.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That we make him, that being feminine for a man is hilarious, because no man would want to act feminine.
Right. And the
There was
audience,
even a joke about having the nails done, or no, that's the night that we do the pedicures, or whatever the joke was. It was all girly stuff. Men doing girly stuff is funny.
Right.
Whereas we've come into the world now where everything is a bit more metrosexual, where I think men get, manicures and pedicures almost as often as women do.
Oh, yeah.
The world has changed, and people, certainly in big cities, people are very judgy about things like that. And in this show, they're all so judgy about everything.
Right.
and that's what's interesting about this, is how limiting this sort of a mindset, the Alex P. Keaton mindset with regard to gender and gender roles, in
Mhm.
watching this series and watching this season in particular, where it's really become a big thing for Alex,
Mm-hmm.
is what a boring life that is, where you're so obsessed with how people should be with regard to like the way they represent themselves or act, or what men are supposed to do or what women are supposed to do. It's so boring. Like the comedy that comes out of it, both ironically and just the way these people are interacting, it's so fucking. It's like watching a black and white TV show and being like, "Hey, colors exist. Wouldn't it be amazing if you had thousands of colors?"
Mm-hmm.
Right. It also seems so incredibly exhausting for watching a person try to control the world around them and dictate how the world should be.
Yes.
When you can't do that, like, you got to either be part of the world and flow with it. You can't control or change it.
Well,
and you're just tiring to watch.
this sort of leads into where my issue is in this last scene. After Elise's horrible basketball bit that was just awful,
Yeah.
and Alex comes in, the whole family is there with Mallory, and even when Nick comes in, Alex has a look on his face that I'm finding irritating. When someone says something about someone's intelligence and he starts to smirk 2 lines before his line, he gets that look on his face like, I got a good one. I got a zinger. I got the zinger. And he stands there and they put him in the shot and they put the stupid ass camera on him, and it's irritating at this point. Hey, Alex, I know what the fuck you're going to say. I heard his line too. But why can't you shut the fuck up or until you speak? Why do you need to lead up to your lines like, yeah, I got a sarcastic line. I got my Chandler Bing on face. I got my Chandler Bing face on. Here we go. I'm going to say something sarcastic. Stupid face. Stupid face. Blurt it out. It's just irritating to me. And I know that you love Michael J. Fox, but you know what? I'm finding his performance to be repetitive, irritating. He's gotten himself into a pattern of when he has something funny to say, he telegraphs it before he says something funny.
I agree. It's a crutch for him, and it's a crutch for the writers, and it's a crutch for the directing. Because they're all relying on that setup.
I think with Michael J. Fox, especially in this season, it's definitely a matter of he's found what works and is not trying to find new things. And it's a laziness. Like, the writers are only going to go so far, and he only goes so far.
Now, this scene did have what I thought was the funniest moment in the show, and it has to do with sexual things. When they curtsied to Nick was my only time I laughed in this whole episode.
Yeah.
When both Michael J. Fox and Michael Gross both curtsied to Nick.
Yeah.
Right.
Snow Queen.
Right.
Honoring the Snow Queen. That made me laugh. But honestly, it was 21 minutes into a 22-minute episode.
Right. Yeah, and so Nick's over, Nick has come over, and I didn't get what the apologizing was here. Like, Mallory is apologizing for being jealous. We still don't really have much reason why, other than he was spending a lot of time at the sorority, her idea. And then Nick is apologizing for getting excited about finding a place where he fit in.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't seem like a very weighted argument or conflict.
Yeah, and the things that they're arguing for and against, we didn't really see occur in the episode leading up to this.
Yeah.
I did like this scene in the fact that, like, I like these two characters. I like when these two characters are honest with each other, because they seem to be the most likable characters on the show.
Yeah.
Yes.
And their relationship seems healthy in a way that even Stephen Elise doesn't seem healthy. And so I like this scene in as much as, like, these two characters are being honest about their problems, and they're listening to each other, and they're trying to find common ground. I know that that's what all of Family Ties does, but this one, to me, seemed more sincere than others. I don't know.
Yeah. And then it ends with Nick, like, saying, "Hey, get a coaster for that," right?
That's it.
Dun. Yeah, I think that's where we're at, guys. Is complete and total laziness. The show for the past season and a half now has been on autopilot.
I don't think this episode is one that I will remember for the rest of my life. I as I was watching and finishing this episode, I was like, I won't remember this episode in another month.
Oh yeah, it'll be very forgettable. When we do our recap at the end of this season, we'll be like, what was that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's astounding how much cutting and pasting they're doing with plots and character. Yeah. Well, guys, I I'm glad to be back with you guys.
It's nice to have you back.
I know, man.
That means I only have to talk 1/3 of the time instead of half of the time.
It does make it easier.
That is why I feel so like my apologies are so long. Is because of like I feel bad. One, that you've had to watch this shit, and that you have to talk about it more there. So I feel bad.
Don't worry about it. It's all good. We're happy to have you back.
Excellent, guys. Well, that wraps it up for us. See, this is how long it's been since I've done this.
Wow.
All right.
Oh, man.
That was.
All right, loosen up here. Be sure to, for questions and comments, be sure to email us at qualitytimewithfamilyties@gmail.com. And for updates, you can follow us on Twitter at QTWFT. Each of us is also on Twitter. I'm at Follow Jones.
I'm at Paul Packler.
And I'm at Corpep.
And be sure to like our Facebook page. We'd like to thank our host and producer, Barbara Dillon at Fanbase Press. Fanbase Press is an online conglomerate of geek media that interviews with daily interviews and retrospectives that span the geek pop culture spectrum. Check out everything that they do. We'd like to thank Perry Adams, who beautifully performs the theme song without us. Check out Perry's music at perryadams.com. We'd like to thank Brian Dillon, Fanbase Press's co-president, who also edits our show. And lastly, Sean Foster, who designed our logo. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.